So I went ahead and posted this on the community tab because Joe Seacott, one of the head developers over at Infinity Ward, went ahead and tweeted this out. He said that the overhaul was a fake statement to get attention. We are constantly updating the game at least once a week, sometimes twice. Season 1 incoming. Also bye, with a smiley face. And after just reading a few of the comments, it became very apparent that people are out of the loop and they had no clue what this is actually referencing. So we're gonna go ahead and walk through all that information, and I'm also gonna give a little bit of feedback that I have for the game, because although I am enjoying the game, I don't think it's perfect. I think there's a lot of things it can do to actually improve or enhance the experience. And since I know some of the developers have actually watched my videos, if there's any feedback you'd like to leave on the game, try and be as constructive as possible down in the comment section below. And a quick reminder, if you do enjoy the video in any way, please do me a favor hitting that like button. And if you're brand new to the channel or not currently subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel with notifications on so you'll be able to find your way back. So pretty much everything started on November 1st. The Gaming Revolution actually went ahead and tweeted out these two different things. He said the minimap will be returning to normal by the end of November, and there's a big overhaul coming. And for anyone that doesn't know who the Gaming Revolution is, he's basically been leaking stuff about Modern Warfare since months before the game actually came out. And almost everything has been accurate because he has some kind of inside source. So based off his strong track record, there was no reason not to believe that an overhaul was coming and that the mini-map would be reverted back to the way we're used to in Call of Duty. And this wouldn't be unheard of for Call of Duty to have an overhaul to their overall game mechanics. We saw this in World War II about 6 months into the game's life cycle. They went ahead and made a bunch of changes that the community was asking for since launch. So what ends up happening is a lot of people start hypothesizing about what's actually going to be changed, even though pretty much nothing was confirmed, and the only information we had was that a change to the minimap was going to be very likely. Besides that, pretty much everyone has their own feelings about the game, whether it's perfect or not perfect. We have certain things that we said, hey, you know what? If they change this one thing, the game would be much better. So people actually start thinking about the game in that way, that it's going to actually have this supposed feature that they actually want for the game, regardless of what that feature is. And that's going to inevitably set you up for disappointment when that particular change doesn't happen. So let's go ahead and continue to move along the timeline. Ashton Williams is one of the senior communications managers, and basically she runs the social media aspect to keep in tune with the community. And she tweeted, finalizing notes for the big update in quotation marks you all keep asking about. Notes are a little over 2 pages long. Lots of good stuff in here. So that was tweeted out on November 20th, near the end of the month, which we were thinking that the overhaul would be. So even though the update was 100% true, there was a big update that was approximately 13 gigabytes. And in terms of updates, that's pretty large. But regardless of that, there's no way that they don't know that the Gaming Revolution has tweeted out that there's going to be an overhaul near the end of the month, and they're saying big update. So the word choice is a little bit sketchy in my opinion, but regardless of that, we'll never know the true intent of that tweet, whether it was supposed to mislead slightly or drop a little bit of extra hype because of that specific word choice. So it ends up getting a little bit crazier as we go along, and the following day, the patch notes came out for the PC players, and in them, there was some internal notes that were clearly not for the public to see. The first note was in the gun game section, and under gun game it said gun game is a fan favorite mode and we should see positive sentiment around its addition. And in the footsteps adjusted volume and sound type played for crouch walk and walking while aiming down sight section, there was a note that said this is a hot topic in the community and this is not the change they were hoping to see. Our core players want to see footstep volume dramatically reduced. So obviously with these notes, there's a clear understanding of what the community wants, and they're going to see how that fits in with their specific vision. So when they make that little statement about core players, those are the people that are playing the game on a regular basis. Those are the opposite of what we call casuals that maybe log in and play the game once a week or a couple times a week on a very casual basis. So the core players are the people that play the game and are very passionate about the game, which is who you're probably going to see in the comment section. You're going to see on Twitter, the people you're going to see on Reddit. The casuals that they're actually making the game for and appealing to are the vast majority of players that don't actually care about Call of Duty unless they're actually playing Call of Duty. Then we even got a little bit more news. They actually flew out a bunch of different influencers, YouTubers, whatever the case is, out to the studio to record some content so they can go ahead and post it to hype up season 1 before it actually starts on December 3rd. And for whatever reason, the YouTuber Swag and the pro player Attach were able to get in a discussion with JGOD, which again is one of those head developers. And you can see it in Swag's tweet right here. At the end of this, it says also had a 20-minute Q&A with JGOD about the game and things that can make it better. So long story short, on all that Q&A, it pretty much came down to a few things. Skill-based matchmaking is in the game. It's in pretty much every Call of Duty, and how they handle it is slightly different. And from general experience, it's fairly strong within Modern Warfare. They also went ahead and talked about the minimap. They pretty much said the changes they made to the minimap in the beta are the only changes that we're going to see made to it. They're not going to add the dots. They're going to continue to go with the minimap and compass combination. And the last big issue was how Ghost works within the game. And it pretty much works how it's kind of worked within the Infinity Ward titles, which is that movement is not required to stay off the minimap if there is a UAV in the air. And unfortunately, with that type of setup, you're always going to reward the camping playstyle, which in my opinion isn't always good or bad, but it's just the fact of how Ghost works. If somebody has Ghost and they don't have to move to keep it active, they're generally not going to move. So basically, with all that information, we're coming to the end of November and we're like, where the heck is this overhaul? We thought that the big update was going to be it. Maybe they're talking about something else. And that brings us back to the JGOD tweet from December 1st. He says the overhaul was a fake statement to get attention, and he's putting a little bit of a jab to the gaming revolution, which we talked about earlier. He said we are constantly updating the game at least once a week, sometimes twice, saying they're going to continue to update the game. And then season 1 is incoming, which is true. It's going to be on December 3rd. And the last part of the tweet where he says also buy with a smiley face is specifically directed to the person he is responding to. And pretty much what's happening there is there's a lot of toxic people, and there's people that are very disrespectful on Twitter to a lot of the developers, regardless if it's warranted or not. So when JGOD actually responds to those particular individuals, he will always answer what they're specifically saying with something like he's done in this tweet. Then he'll finish it off with something saying bye, and that is specifically directed towards that individual, because what he is conveying that this individual is going to be muted from his timeline, so he will never see this person's concerns or tweets in the future. So obviously, if you're going to give feedback, it's important to be as constructive as possible without being disrespectful, because if you're disrespectful, then you're basically never going to be heard, so you kind of just shot yourself in the foot. So where does that leave us? Obviously, we're not going to have any kind of overhaul. So if anyone out there is watching this and you just do not enjoy the game, the odds are that nothing is going to fundamentally change that's going to make you enjoy the game. So you could either go ahead and kind of adapt or move on to another game, because there are a ton of games out there in the first-person shooter category. And I know there's a bunch of people out there that are saying, don't buy the battle pass, then they'll go ahead and budge into our demands. But I'm going to be honest with you, the battle pass is probably the best DLC structure we've ever had in Call of Duty, going all the way back to like COD 4. And it's basically a no-brainer. We're already getting the free DLC maps. We're going to get the weapons for free. So the battle pass is 100% optional. Nothing in there is going to be game-changing. You're going to have some blueprints, some skins, and some other cosmetics. Nothing is fundamentally going to change your experience other than just the way your character looks. On top of that, they're going to also include 1,000 extra COD points, so you're basically going to be able to get your money back, plus a few hundred other COD points that are part of the free battle pass. So all in all, you'll probably spend about 1,000 COD points, which is about $10, and you're going to go ahead and get 1,300 COD points in return. So that leads me to believe that the scenario that we had in World War II is just not going to happen within Modern Warfare. Odds are there's not going to be any kind of overhaul, and people are definitely not going to get fired. And like I said earlier, just because I enjoy the game doesn't mean I think the game's perfect. I think there's a ton of small changes and realistic changes that could just improve the overall quality of life of the game. One of the biggest issues right now is skill-based matchmaking, and after those videos came out from Exclusive Ace and Drifter, there was definitely some tweaking, because the algorithm has changed slightly where the lobbies don't feel quite as sweaty. Obviously, the gameplay in the background, this is a very sweaty match, but whereas before I felt like 90% of my matches in the 66 and the 10v10 playlist felt like this match, only about 30% feel like it now. So the other 70% feel a little bit closer to what I'm used to when I load up for a casual match of Call of Duty. One of the easiest changes would be to give us more creative class spots. Currently we only have 5. Why can't we have 10? Why can't we have 15? There are so many different options. Obviously we could change the loadout within game, but that's not really the point. People are accustomed to having approximately 10 loadout slots, So why not have the game with 10 loadout slots? And I'm not a coder or anything, but that seems like a relatively simple fix. A more complicated fix, which I'm just surprised they don't just copy and paste what they've done in previous Call of Duties, is the issue with the overall spawns. And I think that's why people just generally do not like the maps. If you have bad spawns, even on a good map, you're not going to like that map. You're going to say the map sucks just because it doesn't have any flow to it. But a lot of it really comes down to spawns. And I think if they went ahead and spent a majority of their time on fixing spawns, it would solve a lot of the issues we have with the individual maps. Not all the issues, but a lot of them. I think there still needs to be some kind of nerf to the tanks in ground war. And then there also needs to be a little bit of balancing on the weapons. The M4 has been nerfed a bunch of times, but it still needs a minor nerf. Obviously, there's people out there saying, hey, you could just buff all the other weapons. But I'm pretty sure nerfing one weapon is significantly easier than buffing a dozen or so other weapons. And I think the M13 is one of those weapons that does need a buff in addition to the nerf that the M4 would see. And I think that there's still a handful of SMGs that do need buffs across the board. They're just not used quite as often as the MP5 and the MP7. I think more people are starting to use the Bison, but in general, those are the only 3 SMGs you're generally going to see unless someone's going for camo challenges. So I really want to do this video to kind of get my opinions out there and kind of clear up some of those misconceptions I was seeing in the community. I'd love to hear you guys' constructive criticism about Modern Warfare down in the comments section below. If you did enjoy the video, please do me a favor hitting that like button. And if you're brand new or you just haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and consider subscribing at this point with notifications on so you'll be able to find your way back to the channel. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.